Welcome to the Girl Dad Show.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Today, I'm super excited to have Jim Brown on the show today. Jim, welcome to the show.
So good to be with you, Young. Looking forward to our conversation.
Heck yeah, let's jump right in. Why don't you tell the listeners what you do?
I am the leader of a boutique consulting practice that helps boards of directors and senior executive teams lead healthy companies. And one of the things that I'm most focused on right now is a brand new book that's coming out in May, The Imperfect CEO. I dig into what the CEO and leadership team's job is to create a healthy culture in a company so that everybody that goes to work actually wants to be there and makes everybody's lives.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love that title so much. It's like the antithesis of what you're expecting a CEO book should be about.
It's the antithesis of what CEOs think they're supposed to be. That's what I'm really going at, right? The pressure for CEOs to have all the answers, to be super confident, to know exactly the way, it's just not true. It can never be true.
Yeah.
So CEOs spend all this time pretending, and they've got this weight on their shoulders. Oh, everybody's counting on me. Often it's unconscious, but it's still there. And yeah, my thesis, my campaign is we just need to get real. We're imperfect.
Yeah.
Own it. The good thing is we have people around us. And if I can just relax and let my weakness be known and invite people to bring their strength to cover it, then I will excitedly use my strength to augment what they're doing. And together we can be great.
It's an amazing lesson. And it's actually quite obvious if you think about it. And it's just one of those things that you never really ponder because it's like the expectation is that as you move up, you know more things. But the reality is like, what does they say? It's like the average person, like 98% of us have an IQ differential of like 2% or something like that. It's like, no.
I don't remember reading about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not even about how smart we are. Like,
exactly.
There's so many other factors.
Well, and that's the point of the stat is that, it's not really about intelligence. The titles and stuff it comes from different reasons, and so we put this like moniker and expectation of our CEO to be like omnipotent and all knowing, and it's not the case. They're only the same intelligence.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've met some people that I'm amazed at. They just grasp the world so well. So yay. But they are also imperfect. And
that's right.
If we can be humble enough to just say, this is me, I'm doing the best I can. I'm working at it. I'm going to keep working to improve. But I know I've got some faults and some weaknesses, and I know I make mistakes. I'm not going to pretend that I've got it all together. So it makes it so it's safe for everybody else on the team to be who they are.
Yeah.
And that creates the environment where your best ideas, you feel safe to share your best ideas.
That's right.
You feel safe to challenge some bold thought that I've shared. Wait, he's the boss. Doesn't he get to say what he wants and do what he wants? Well, I can, but then I'm the bottleneck. I'm the limiting factor.
Yeah.
If I have people around me that bring their strength, we put it all together and we're better together.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really creating a unified company that actually goes for the goals. And the CEO's job is to make sure that the company is shepherded to goals and success, not necessarily for them to be successful.
That is the mark of a true leader.
Yeah.
Working to do what serves the people they are leading rather than serving themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Let's dig into this a little bit, actually, before we go into the other stuff. How did you get to being in this position where you have had this epiphany and this understanding and had enough understanding to actually even write a book about it and obviously coach, train, and consult for people like this?
Well, first, let's just acknowledge that most of the really important things that I've learned in my life are because I've done them completely wrong and had to have personal lessons. So yeah, in many ways, I would say that The Imperfect CEO is like an autobiography. I'm just joking at it. It's written as a story, Young. So it's a person that's exasperated because the way he's been leading his company for so long isn't working, it seems. And his team helps him understand what has changed in the world and how all of us need to lead differently so that we can create the kind of culture that people want to live in. People today, And that's part of my story is that, yeah, I've been leading this business for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get to the place where you think you've got to figure it out, except that it keeps changing.
Yeah.
The world is changing, and what I thought worked doesn't work today. So yeah, humbly, I've had to learn a lot that way. I've also had the incredible privilege of being a consulting partner with Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group.
Mm.
So he's written all these incredible books like The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And
Oh, yeah.
I spent 15 years as a partner with him and then just continue as friends with him now.
Wow. What an incredible experience. That's great. So you really are like deep entrenched, both experientially as well as personally inside of like the team dynamics of a company.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So that makes a lot of sense. That's great. I love the book then. That's even more cool. I have to ask, how much has parenting impacted your study and experience here in leadership?
So much.
Okay, good.
And first, let's clarify. For me, my family is, I think, most important. So no one else has been charged with the responsibility of being husband to my wife and father to my children. No one in the world. So I feel assigned, called, and privileged to be the person that will do that. So I want to do it well. Meanwhile, the world tries to tell you that there's other things that are a lot more important. So there's some competing factors there. And that's been a thing that I've had to work with over the years. One of my early life experiences, I was just like 20 years old. And I had been learning about successful people, CEOs with recognition and fame and fortune. So I thought that's what I want to be like. So I started setting up meetings. I would take people out to lunch if they would share, the 5 most important things about becoming a successful leader. And through that journey, Young, I uncomfortably discovered that while there were all kinds of incredible suggestions about being successful in business, I quickly noticed a pattern. Everybody I was talking to had a failed marriage and a disenfranchised family. And that's not the life that I wanted. So when I got married, I made that very clear to my wife that she is going to be my priority. Yes, I have some dreams about what I want to do in the world, but I'm going to do my best to dedicate my life to her and to our family. I'm not claiming that I've done that as well as can be done. We can talk about some of the, low points that have happened, but it's been an intentional objective along the way. I'm thankful for that discovery early. I'm glad that it isn't, at this stage in my life. I wish I'd done things differently so that my 5 kids actually talk to me. I have 5 children who do talk to me. I enjoy life with them, friendship with them, and I have to admit, with some surprise, even they are all adults now. I still find myself in a parenting role differently than I ever understood would happen, but it's all an ongoing learning experience.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Very well said. I will tell you that I'm evolving as a dad, and I'm obviously kind of earlier chapters than you are, and you've walked 1,000 miles in my shoes here, but I've come to the same actual conclusion. And it's kind of interesting that you learned it at 20s because I learned it at 40s, but I've come to the same conclusion. The more people I meet that are highly successful, it's only anecdotal data. I don't have actual
same
data,
for me.
but yeah, it's just that the more people I talk to that are hyper successful are lacking in this side, and it's interesting. And so I think about like what that looks like to actually have that and balance it out. Do you have to balance out success? Do you have to like do these things? And I'm not really sure yet. I'm still figuring it. Sounds like but I do know that led me to the whole trepidation of what you just said, which is what does that do though? So if I do balance it out and I work on this, what does that do? And I've come to the conclusion that success for me in the next chapter of parenthood is actually having adult children that want to come back and hang out with me and be my friends.
Right.
And so it's really beautiful for you to say that for me, because it's very validating and very encouraging to watch someone that's been there, done that, actually say the same thing. It's incredible.
Still working at it. I wouldn't say done it. I'm still working at it.
That's a beautiful sentiment too. I love your mentality. Always learning. That's incredible. Do your kids, now that they're adults, know that you did this intentionally? Or have you ever talked to them about this kind of intention?
Sure. Yep. And when they were growing up, we would have family meetings. And I would ask them, it depends on their age, where they fit into the conversation. But the question, I don't know, every 4 to 6 months was, so how's it working? I've got lots going on with my business, but you're most important to me. Are you feeling like I'm available when you need to be? Are you feeling that you can count on me? Do you get what you need from me? These kinds of things. I'm trusting, especially, when kids are 10 years old, they're not going to make it up. They're probably going to tell you what's really happening. So I've been fortunate that there's been a pattern of affirmation that, yeah, Dad, we know that sometimes you're gone for 4 or 5 days, but when you come back, you actually take time to be with us. And we don't feel like you're avoiding us. We feel like you really focus yourself on us when you're around. And plus, I have an incredible wife who really was the solid rock for the family. She was a stay-at-home mom. And we even homeschooled our children. So
beautiful.
And I shouldn't say we, because she did 99% of the work. So they would each say that home was a stable place for them, and that, their experience was that I was there when I needed to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I'm assuming now that they're adults, they're also in the workforce and all those things. Do they know? Do they know what you do for a living, and how you were like maybe possibly even sacrificed? And what do they think about you being an author? I know that was like 3 questions in one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they all know what I do for a living. And in fact, I've taken, when my children were in their like final year of high school, I took each of them on a trip somewhere in the world that was a work trip, so that they could, fly in first class and just live the life that I live on the road. Some of it looks incredible, but not all of it. It's not really like that. It's busy and heavy. Meanwhile, I always included a fun adventure. My wife and I were recently doing some work in California and had a thing that we were at right in Anaheim. And I was remembering that Jonathan, our middle child, came with me when he was 18. And one of the days that we were in California for my work, we went and visited Disneyland. And
cool.
We live on the other side of the country. He's the only one in our family that's been to Disneyland, only sibling. That's a great memory that he has. And isn't it interesting, Young? Sometimes like that punctuates his memory of that adventure.
Right.
And he also knows that it was part of a work trip and he got to be with Dad. And it's not that he was totally understanding what I was doing, although I was doing a keynote talk in a big room and he was videotaping. So he was right in it, but Disneyland was the big thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've been doing this for all your kids? That's really cool. That's awesome. I will say that I started doing this a couple of years ago. So because I had a conversation with the guest previously, and he owned a series of restaurants. He owned a bunch of restaurants, and he had a 6 and 11-year-old, and he's like, they work in the cash register and do all these. I'm like, but you don't. I mean, you make so much money, like you don't need to. And he's like, yeah, but like, why not? Like, what are they gonna not learn from working in the restaurants or being with me periodically? And so
absolutely,
it kind of like opened up my mind to like, I'm like, what am I taking them out of like second grade that they wouldn't learn in a business setting? And so I actually I take my kids to conferences once in a while.
Good.
And I just like bring her along to meetings and just stick her in front of an iPad for a few hours, because I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, some of these conferences, I mean, they're like 3 or 4 days, but I'd say that 60-70% of them is just me by myself trying to find crappy food that's not that crappy, sleeping in a random hotel. It's kind of lonely, and
yes,
you're really working maybe 20-30% of it. You're just traveling and eating and commuting the rest of it. And so I was like, I'm going to bring her. And then the little bit that I brought her was really funny, because when I go to these conferences, I'm typically talking to I'm really going for like maybe a dozen meetings, and they're like capital allocators, they're private equity, these kind of folks. And it's funny because I have my kid just like drawing and coloring, and they're like, you could do that? And I'm like, do you mind? And they're like, no, I kind of want to bring my kid. And I'm like, we should just do this next year. Everyone bring their kid and like just have them color together and hang out. Yeah. I was telling them the story, but I'm really happy to hear you say that, because I feel like it's such a powerful thing for the kid to know what you do. And it's so hard for me because my kids are younger than yours, obviously, but like, I just want them to understand that like, not every time that I'm not here is just making sure they know that I'm doing it for them. It's not, I mean, for me, it is anyways. And I guess it doesn't have to be for them, but I guess it's partially for me too. Cause I do like, I love making money. It's one of my favorite things to do. But, I do want to make money for myself, but I also want to make money to provide for my family, you know? And so making sure they know.
But let's come back to that line. I'm doing this for them.
Yeah.
I know more people than I can count
Yeah.
who are certain that they were doing it for them, their children, and their children are convinced that it wasn't for them at all. That wasn't their experience of it. So that's a reminder to me to keep in mind, okay, that's my objective.
Yeah.
But am I actually accomplishing what I'm aiming to do? The only way to do that is to talk to them, ask them. So my aim is to do this for you. How's that working? What's your experience of this? How are you feeling about this? Again, that's a conversation for a 18 to 20-year-old as opposed to a 10-year-old. But change how we ask our 10-year-old. Hey, did you have fun this week?
Yeah.
I was traveling this week. How did things go at home? I missed you.
Yeah.
But now that I'm with you, it feels like it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Is that working okay for you?
Yeah.
I haven't thought through the questions, Young, but these are
like
questions
that.
worth thinking through.
I love it. How did you have your epiphanies? Talk to me about some of the trials and tribulations that you've gone through to get you to this point where you're so understanding and sensitive to the different roles and aspects of children and also employees.
You've probably heard the story about how, as a young person, sometimes we have to put our hand on the red hot stove burner to really believe that it's hot. I think that I was fortunate, and it's probably related to how I was parented. I was fortunate to quickly embrace the concept that it's better to learn from someone else who's put their hand on the burner than to have to burn yourself to learn it. So, yeah, I think a lot of the things where I was noticing what was happening with people ahead of me and realizing I need to guard against that happening. The children whining sounds, there's a connotation that's not intended. Expressing their frustration that dad wasn't at any of their concerts, like, you know, they're learning to play the violin, and dad never went to any of those shows or didn't go to any of their basketball games. I didn't want that to be my experience. But I also knew I couldn't be the dad that went to every basketball game. That's just not the life that I was living. A few years ago, I flew 137 flights. That's what my life is like. I travel a lot. And I love my family and I want to be with them, and I work to find ways to bring that all together.
Right.
So that means, no, I can't go to all the basketball games, but I can find out when the few games are that I should not miss, and I'm going to put those in my calendar, and I'm not going to miss them.
Yeah.
When somebody says, "Oh, we'd like you to do a keynote in Chicago for this," that date is booked.
Yeah.
That was one of the important lessons for me, Young, is I have to put things in my calendar a year out, or my calendar just takes over my life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got better. My wife and I got better at learning to look ahead to what was going on for each of our children and plan. How do we make sure that I'm going to be available to be prioritizing that with them?
That's awesome. I love that. I love that mindset, and I have a lot to learn from you. I'm actually pretty comparable in that journey I think that you were on, and also the current journey that you're on. I do travel a lot as well. I'm clocking just around the same amount of flights a year, and it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain to my wife sometimes, even though she gets it and she's an adult. You know, there's also like, you know, a scope of reference, right, where she doesn't understand all the myriad of things that are happening with that, you know.
Because, well, you and I know lots of people that live lives like we do. Our family doesn't. Our family is in a community context where this is not the normal way to do a life. So, yeah, it takes extra effort to help them embrace it as, yeah, but this is good and right for dad, and it's fine for us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you have any other trials and tribulations that you can share from other people that you have learned? Because I will say, like, you're like a kindred spirit. I hope I'm smart and wise like you when I'm older, because I will tell you, there's an old Asian saying that I absolutely admire and love, and most people don't buy into it, but it's this: the Asian saying is, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, a wise man learns from others.
100%. Yeah,
I love that saying.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I love that saying.
Well, as you asked, I'm sorry, a firsthand lesson came to me. So
yeah, please.
I don't remember the city I was in, where I was working, but my wife Karen called me and said, "Hey, there's been a big challenge. You need to talk to Sarah, my daughter." Well, Sarah had a pet rabbit, and the rabbit died.
Oh no.
And as a professional, there was a little instant in my head that was, it's just a rabbit. But thankfully, thank you, God, it suddenly came into full color that accept that this is the hardest thing that happened in her life so far. And I need to be empathetic about that and make extra time available. So I don't know. I talked to her for a long time on the phone, and we just talked in circles, and she was whimpering and weeping. And I think I was too before it was over. Anyway, that was a moment when I realized I can't be there for all of those moments when I most would want to be there. This is as close as I can get to it in that moment. What do I do so that when I am there, it doesn't feel like she's just around, but rather it feels like she's the center of my attention. I wanted her to be the center of my attention in that moment. She deserved to be, but I was 1,000 miles away. So the lesson for me, and I think I'm still learning, how do I do that better so that when I am present, it feels like I'm completely present for her. And as I said, we have 5 children. So that needs to be the experience of each of them. It's not enough that I had my moment with my child this week. No, every one of them actually deserves a moment. And every one of them would look different. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like what you call situational leadership, isn't it?
Yeah. Ken Blanchard. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I've been exercising that muscle quite a bit. I'm not an athlete. I'm more into music and arts.
Yes.
And finance and numbers. I love that as well. But I have just never got into sports. I don't know the rules. I don't know the players. I don't know the games. I don't know how to play. But my wife's super into sports, and so because she's a stay-at-home mom and she has more time with them, she influences their activities a lot more than me. So both my kids play piano, which is really exciting for me, but they play a lot of sports. But what I realized it was actually just the other month, and I'm doing a LinkedIn post about it here soon, but I am now researching and learning soccer and basketball.
Good for you.
Not because I'm interested, but because they're important. Yeah, they're interested. Yeah, it's important to them. So, and if they're important to me, my logical brain told me that if they're important to me and it's important to them, then it needs to be important to me. And
that is going to pay off for you, Young.
You think so?
There's going to be conversations where you'll talk about some outstanding personality in the soccer world.
Yeah.
And one of your girls will say, "You know him?" Well, I don't know him, but I know of him. Like, he's incredible. Have you seen some of his shots?
Yeah.
And like, then you go to the computer and you'll pull up some YouTube images of him upside down, kicking the ball into the goal or something. And she'll be excited and you're excited. Again, you're sharing a moment that really matters to her, which if it was only up to you, you wouldn't have done that at all.
No, I really don't. I mean, just to be brutally honest, I have no interest.
I have
no interest in it at all, right? It doesn't excite me at all. But it's really fun to be able to play basketball with her. It's fun to practice soccer drills with her, and I enjoy that moment. I enjoy her excitement. I enjoy her struggle. I enjoy watching her like having to persevere through the drill or that muscle and exercise. Like, and for me, I'm always struggling with finding ways to teach my kids grit. Because they have such a blessed life. I mean, I'm such a pushover dad. And so I have to constantly fight this, this desire to give them everything in the world with this need to like make sure that they can actually fend for themselves.
Yeah. So let me jump in with a little
please.
Life lesson.
I would love it.
As a dad, we want our kids to feel like they're winners. And so there's a part of me that wants to make sure that at the end of the checkers game, my kid wins.
Yeah.
But what I quickly discovered was they can't win easily and they can't win all the time.
That's right.
Because it doesn't feel like real life. And so good for you that you're playing basketball with your girls now. You probably can do pretty well with them. But 5 years from now, they're going to trounce you.
All I heard was don't take it easy on them because they're not going to take it easy on me later.
Well, and you're going to have to get good at letting them beat you completely and just just love them and say, man, I will never be this good.
Yeah.
You are way better than me. But it's still fun to do this with you. I hope it isn't boring because I'm such a comparative loser. They likely still want to play with dad.
That's awesome.
Whereas if you just kind of, step 3 steps back and let them take their jump shot, eventually that's just going to be boring. They could have done that without you. No, jump, wave, cat call, be like the real world, but still love them through it.
I love that. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great life lesson. So let me pivot and switch gears a little bit. So as you think about your business career and what you've accomplished, it sounds like you've done quite a bit. Is there anything that you have in the horizons for this next chapter of business as a goal, or what success looks like?
So I will admit to you that I'm at a surprising point. I was thinking that I was going to kind of be tapering off and slowing down, just kind of enjoy the life that I've allowed myself to have available. But what happened a couple of years ago was that my first book is called The Imperfect Board Member. And the publisher, Wiley, was pressing me to do a 20th anniversary edition. Yeah. Hey, it's a bestseller. You really need to refresh this. We think it's going to be great. And in the conversation, they said, but you must have another book inside you. And I've got a lot of books inside me, but delivering a book to the world is a really big deal. And I thought I never wanted to do that again. But I was convinced, not by them, but just as I walked through this, I realized, no, I do have something that I need to bring to the world. So we've got the Imperfect Board Member, and the 20th anniversary edition of that comes out in September. We've got the Imperfect CEO. That comes out in May. And what has become clear to me is that my life, my career has been about helping leaders embrace their imperfection. So what I'm envisioning as I move forward is what I'm calling the Imperfect Leadership Movement. And my aim is to enroll like thousands, 100,000 leaders into accepting, of course they're imperfect. Everybody's imperfect. But that doesn't mean I'm unable. That doesn't mean I'm disqualified. Actually, it could position me to lead better than ever. So let's learn together about how we bring our imperfection to our role and to the world. Because if we can create healthy work experiences, imagine, part of my story is when I was in my 20s, I worked in a factory. And basically everybody hated their job. But nobody had a plan to make their life better. And one of the people that I encountered, there was kind of an event every Friday, and he would strike out a week on the calendar counting down to retirement. And finally he got to retirement. I think he'd worked there for 42 years.
Oh, wow.
And done. We had a little cake in the cafeteria with people, and he talked about how he and his wife are looking forward to travel. They've been saving. But within a couple of months after that, he died. And since then, I've discovered this happens over and over. People delay living the life they want to live, and then they get their life cut short. I want everyone to start living the life they want to live right now. And I, as a leader, want to make their work experience in my organization be the life they want to live right now. And what if we did that in 100 companies, 1,000 companies? What if 1 million people actually came to work because they couldn't wait to get to work? Whether it's from their home or from a building, it's some atrocious number, like at least 3/4 of the population don't like their job right now. What if 3/4 of the population loved their job?
Yeah.
They would go home and their whole life at home would be better because they'd feel positive about things. They would come back to work and be ready to bring their best, which likely would mean they'd be bringing better ideas and doing better work, which means they'd be more productive, which means the company would be more profitable. And if the company is led well, they would share that profit and pay their people more. And then they'd go home and things would be better at home. And there's this cycle where it just keeps getting better and better. So yeah, would you join me, Young, in this Imperfect Leadership Movement? Can we help ourselves and leaders be
I
accepting of that?
Yeah, I absolutely love your mindset and I love your movement. I think it's incredible, incredibly audacious. It sounds simple, but it's actually a pretty big deal.
It is.
Yeah, and it's not easy to start that flywheel and cycle, but I do know it's possible, and I have seen it. I've yet to replicate it, but I've worked at companies that have infused incredible psychological safety,
Yes.
and it's magical. I will tell. I mean, believe it or not, Apple. I worked at Apple, and they do a really good job of it. And it's kind of brutal. And I mean, I will say, because there's so much psychological safety that there's there's a lot of accountability. So like
Yes.
on the inverse is that like when you're not performing, everyone knows, and like almost immediately. And so there's no soft handling either. So it's like high expectations, high accountability, but incredible psychological safety where you can
Right.
say the right idea, move things forward, get things done. It's all for the goal of the company. And it's definitely for a specific type of person, but if you can pull it off, it creates an incredible organization.
I'm so glad that you're sharing to our listeners that it's possible. And that's absolutely my
Yeah.
experience doing this
Yeah.
work for 30 plus years. Yes, we've seen beautiful breakthroughs and transformations in organizations, which starts at the leadership and then cascades down so that more and more people are actually loving their job. What a concept.
I know. I
The
love
most of our waking hours are in our jobs,
that. Yeah.
and too many people in the population kind of just put that in a category separate to life, a thing they just unfortunately have to do, rather than embracing it as, oh, I was made to do this. I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And I'm doing something that matters in the world. And I'm going to tell my kids about this. And they're going to realize that that's how we can live our lives, because I want that to be their life,
Right.
as opposed to, no, you just go, you do what you have to do to pay your mortgage. This is just the way life is. No, let's stop that. Let's make that not the way life is.
Yeah, I love that. That's really incredible. I'm in it for the movement. I'll try my best to support you as
Thank
best
you.
I can.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the other one. So when you think about this next chapter of your parenting journey, what are you looking forward to? What are your aspirations, and what does success look like?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm surprised that even with adult children, there's an interesting aspect of parenting. And I again count it as a privilege. The idea that my adult children and their spouses would come to me, us, my wife and myself, and look for input and support and wisdom and compassion. That's just a beautiful privilege. And I want to be better at that for each of them. And we now have 8 grandchildren. So yeah, part of success is that I can wrap them in my arms and enjoy the incredible people that they are becoming and be a part of that journey with them too.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. Okay, so I would love to ask you some of my rapid fire questions.
Okay. I might not be as rapid fire with answers, but I'll try.
I'd be okay with it if you took your time. I just want to make sure I'm asking at least a couple of the same questions I like to ask all my guests. So there's
Okay.
some symmetry to the show. If you have one piece of advice for other parents or soon-to-be parents, what advice would you give?
One of our children is expecting their first child this summer, and they are a wonderful couple and have been living big lives. Life changes when we have children. So I think the advice I would give to about to be parents and young parents is there will be lots of sacrifice required, but it's absolutely worth it. If we think about the best life we could possibly live and imagine that our child will have a dream of the best life they could live, let's pour ourselves into doing all that we can do to make sure that they can live the best life that they could live. That will take a different amount of attention to who they are and who they're becoming and what we can do to help them reach that. Again, with 5 children, they are all doing different things. Like it's just fun to see how people who grow up in the same context can go on very different trajectories of expressing their life in big ways, and they're all beautiful and they're different than me. So like you are stretching yourself to learn about soccer and baseball, I have to stretch myself to learn more about what my children are doing now in their life, which some things I've never even imagined. That's a job. I can't imagine that. Okay, tell me more. Yeah. So it's a sacrifice that's worth it. Start picturing what their best life could be and leaning into helping make that happen for them.
That's awesome. As you think about your your parenting journey and now your grandparenting journey, is there anything that's really like surprising to you that you've learned that you were good at or bad at, or something that you weren't expecting?
Okay, here's a risky story to share. A long time ago, let me see, it's 29 years ago, my wife and I were expecting our fifth child, and I was in Oregon, Portland, doing some work. And I got a call from Karen. I might not be able to contain myself here. The baby that she's been carrying for over 8 months, she'd just gone for the last sonogram before delivery, and there was no heartbeat. So we had the darkest chapter of our lives as we walked through the death of our son. One of the things that always troubled me was how my wife would be in love with our child the moment that she found out she was pregnant. But for me, it was always just a thing, oh, that's nice. We're going to have a baby. That's nice. And it was never until I held the baby that I felt that love well up in my own heart. So I had started to fear that my love for my children was somehow performance-based, that it's not until they're giggling in my arms that I would love them. But when I held Jacob, I loved him, and he was not performing. So what I'm getting at is that each of us love our children differently, and there isn't a wrong way to love our children. The more we can do to learn what our way is and to embrace it, the better we will be as parents. The more we can acknowledge that our partner has a different way and it's a good way, the better we will embrace our partner and co-parent. Love is amazing. Love is the strongest power there is. So let's learn about how we love.
It's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that story. And I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. Yeah, that's a powerful lesson. And I will say that it's going to be sticking with me for the rest of my life. I definitely need to think about everything you just said there, because it's something that I think I also fall prey to quite a bit, and I need to be much better about that. I'm going to try to learn. I'm going to try to learn from this. Thank you for sharing. Just to close out the show, though, I hope you don't mind if I move on to the next question here.
Oh, of course, no. This is one of those things, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can talk about it and it's just information, but often there's a little heart tug, and I'm fine to move on. It's just true in my life, and I'm not regretting it. I mean, I regret that he died, but I don't regret the emotion that I have. That's another lesson too, by the way. It's just really good to be real with our emotions in front of our children and let them see that emotion is normal and natural, and we should be open with it.
Yeah. Agreed.
It should happen in our business world too. Yeah. So yeah, that was a lesson that I had to apply to my professional world.
Yeah, I appreciate that. To bring us home, do you have a favorite book or show that you like to recommend? I mean, it may be your plug again, but
boy, I'm an avid reader, but mostly just fun fiction, murder mystery kind of things. I don't think there's a favorite book. From that, pleasure base. But certainly, I talked earlier about Patrick Lencioni and the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Great book. Yeah.
That is a fabulous book. Now it's like 25 years old or something. Yeah, I'll highlight that.
Yeah, that's great.
Don't miss it.
Yeah. And then to bring us home, last question. When you're not building out your next book launch and being a grandpa and navigating this next stage, what do you do for fun? What's your downtime activities?
My wife and I we like to just relax when we get to relax. So
good.
We have a beautiful backyard with a swimming pool that's a magnet for grandchildren, which is one of the biggest reasons we have it. But yeah, we will just hang out in the backyard, sitting, talking, floating. That's the thing that I like to do in my free time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's happiness. Yeah, I love it. It sounds lovely. Jim, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to me and share some of your stories and life lessons. I will tell you, this is one of those episodes that I personally have learned a ton. And
right.
I just appreciate you so much. And I hope that we can stay in touch.
I'd love to, please.
Yeah, I'd love to continue to learn from you. But thank you so much for taking the time on the show. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Girl That Show.